Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. The left wants to blame Donald Trump for everything bad, things that the man has nothing to do with. Nothing to do with. So right now we're talking about his tariffs. We talked about that before. And it's, again, we're going to use the word Armageddon. Armageddon is going to happen. Guy who's got the most successful first-year presidency probably in history, but certainly in modern history, and is proving every single day that he knows more on how to fix this economy, how to fix our foreign policy, etc. I'm not saying the dude's perfect, but he's done some really amazing things, and they still complain. And believe it or not, and we're going to get to Russia and some other things here in a bit, but believe it or not, they're actually blaming Donald Trump for the school shooting in Florida. If you think I'm kidding, listen to Garamendi talking about this on Laura Ingram's show.
Congressman Sean, you've raised a very valid point. And one of the things that we need to do is to use tools that are readily available and have been available for us for some time to be used in schools to deal with those precise issues that you raised. That is the acting out, the loneliness that some people have, and the isolation and bullying that does take place. Coming out of Columbine as well as Sandy Hook are two very successful programs that are available in schools. It is interesting to note that in the president's budget, he removed some $50 million that was precisely for the purpose of safe schools. That is to make these programs available to deal with those cultural problems.
That's all right, amigos. It is Trump's fault. School shootings going on in record numbers under Barack Obama. And you got some Democrat congressman who says, oh, no, it's Trump's fault. That's the level of derangement syndrome that we have right now for Donald Trump. And, you know, you're going to hear me say this a lot. Be happy that these people are off the deep end and you have somebody getting something done. See, what Donald Trump will do eventually, he will figure out a way to make schools safe. And when these guys talk about, he cut the budget by $50 million for safe schools. What do you mean? First of all, why are we having a budget of $50 million for safe schools when all we got to do is arm teachers? And oh, by the way, in 2013, Barack Obama proposed the same thing. It's funny how the left have selective memory when it comes to solutions for things. Selective memory. So this was on the heels of the school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, 2013. And Obama put millions of dollars into arming school officers throughout the nation, which, by the way, coincided with what the NRA recommended and many others at the time. And see, what happens with the left is things happen where, you know, in the past, and they because of the politics of it don't suit their needs, they don't say anything about it. Where was Schumer and all these other anti-gun people when Barack Obama said, here was his exact quote. He says, we won't be able to stop every violent act, but if there is even one thing we can do to prevent these events, we have a deep obligation, all of us, to try. That's what he said. So the Justice Department allocated $45 million to create 1,000 school resource officers. These are the very types of people that didn't prevent what happened in Parkland, Florida. Okay. And they said these are specially trained people to work in school, and they expand the mental health personnel. 1,000 of them. Now, there are 98,000 public schools in America, give or take. So they certainly needed more than that, and you think you can do the math. Multiply 45 million times 90, multiply by 100, and you get the number. It's a big number. And so what Trump is saying by removing this $50 million is he's saying, first of all, you don't need those people in schools. You may need mental health experts, but it isn't for the students. It's for the liberals that have built the school system. So what he's saying is, we'll offer a bonus to teachers who are willing to take the safety, exam, understand what it means to get a firearm, and we'll put them in the schools and want them. And you know what you'll find out? You're going to find out the obvious, Captain Obvious out there, because that's what we are. You're going to find out that schools that have trained teachers who have firearms are not, those schools will not get shot up. And the schools that don't, in the inner cities where we're afraid of the guns, they possibly will. Now, you're probably not going to find out, you're not going to find these inner city schools getting shot up anyway, because that's not who gets shot up. It's some aggrieved suburbanite school. We just talked about Parkland, Florida. We're not talking about the inner city, Chicago gangland schools. Those schools don't get shot up. People are too afraid to go over there. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's not for me to figure out. Somebody go do a study and find out why. But it's generally one of these little suburban schools, Columbine or whatever, where the disgruntled, Wiccan kids or whatever, not to impugn them, but, whoever are the ones who do it. So Donald Trump's looking at this from a pragmatic point of view and saying, look, and I'll be honest, look at the studies, look at the clusters and determine where you need to put these people. I don't think every school needs to be armed. I really don't. I think there are many schools that are doing quite well and, have a very unlikely need for that. Or where regular law enforcement, I'll get it out, where regular law enforcement will be able to take care of things. But in the ones that you think are at risk, armed teachers. And quite frankly, if I were a teacher, I'd say I want to be armed in any school that I'm at. That would be my take. But the idea that they blame Trump because he took this money away, and at the very same time, Barack Obama put the money in, and it never look at the school shootings from 2013, from when he implemented this or wanted to the present day, and you still got people shooting up schools. So he didn't solve the problem. Trump's going, look, this is a problem. Kids should be safe in schools in order to learn. Not only should they be safe for a learning environment, they should be safe from bullying and all the other things that this guy talked about. It's funny when you hear, and this I'm talking about Garamendi, the quote from him, clip we played earlier. He's talking about bullying and all these things that occur at school. And who owns this? Who owns what occurs at these schools? The bullying, the teasing, and whatever else that occurs. Is it a bunch of conservatives that are in that school talking about kumbaya? Let me tell you what happened to bullies when I was in school. They got their butts kicked eventually. And people went, I'm glad you got your butt kicked, bully. And then that was the end of that because nobody wanted to replace him. Bullies teach lessons. And I'm not talking about, the beating up of kids. I'm talking about they make kids harder, tougher, stronger. And they also rally people around them and say, why are you bullying? And people go after the bully. And you get this mass, attack on the bully to where that person is made to feel guilty. These schools that tell you, oh, we're going to eradicate all this stuff. They've eradicated nothing. What they do is they create people like this kid, Nicholas Cruz. And then you know what they do? They run from them. They pretend they had nothing to do with the creation of these clowns. Short break.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.